my channel, Bandy's Books. We're back again today with another book-related recipe. So the book we're going to be talking about today is Coraline by Neil Gaiman, and the recipe comes from that book. You may be wondering why you see no book behind me like you did last week, and that's because in this case I read the book online. This is the cover of the book, Coraline right here, and if you haven't read the book, you may be familiar with the fact that there is a very popular movie that came out that did this book as well. Throughout this book, there is lots of good food that shows up and plenty of opportunities to play with recipes. So in this case, we're going to be doing a potato and leek soup that's based off of a potato leek stew that the father does or makes at one point for dinner in this book. The quote that talks about this recipe is, "Coraline's father stopped working and made them all dinner. Coraline was disgusted. 'Daddy,' she said, 'you've made a recipe again.' 'It's leek and potato stew with a tarragon garnish and melted Gruyere cheese,' he admitted. Coraline sighed. Then she went to the freezer and got out some microwave chips and a microwave mini pizza. 'You know I don't like the recipes,' she told her father, while her dinner went around and around on the little red numbers on the microwave oven counted down to 0. 'If you tried it, maybe you'd like it,' said Coraline's father, but she shook her head." In order to do this recipe, you're going to need a couple things. Cutting board, a knife, a colander or a strainer of some sort, a large pot, and a spoon for stirring, and a peeler. For our ingredients, you're going to need some celery, about 2 pounds of leeks, a shallot, a few cloves of garlic, yellow potatoes, we've got some thyme, a couple bay leaves and black pepper, some butter, heavy cream, good quality chicken stock, Gruyere cheese, and tarragon for garnish. I just want to give you a quick note about leeks and using leeks in your cooking. As you can see, leeks can be very dirty. They do sprout up from the ground, and so often there is dirt and sand within, the outside layers of the leeks. So when we're cooking with leeks in general, we're going to slice them up, get them all chopped how we want, and then we're going to put them in this colander. We're going to break them apart a little bit and run a lot of fresh water through them just to make sure that we get rid of all the grit and sand, because nobody wants that in their soup. So to start this recipe, we're going to melt a little bit of butter in the bottom of our pot. We're going to be cooking over like a medium heat today. This is not going to be like last week where we're searing everything off and getting it brown. In this case, what we're going to be doing with the leeks, shallots, and celery is a technique called sweating them. So instead of caramelizing them and browning them, we're going to just let them cook very slowly. And what this does is it allows the juices to come out of the vegetables and it kind of sweetens them. It's a good technique when you have a lot of like onion or onion flavored products. Like in this case, we have the leeks and the shallots. So this is gonna kind of make the flavor a little sweeter, a little more gentle. So once the butter melts, we're gonna throw those vegetables in and let them cook on slow, low heat until they're just soft and translucent and they've started to release some juice. So in goes our leeks, our celery, and our shallots. We're just gonna hang on to our garlic for now. Garlic will go in a little bit. And this process is probably gonna take about 10 to 15 minutes. We're just gonna keep cooking this on low heat. We don't want this to be sizzling and snap crackling. We want it to just cook low and slow and steady. So medium-ish heat. Just let it cook until translucent, and we'll be back in about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes, and as you can see, our vegetables have cooked down a bit, gotten nice and tender, and the onions or the shallots are getting translucent. So that's right about where we want them. So what we're gonna do next is Throw in a couple cloves of garlic and our potatoes. Our good quality chicken broth. And we're gonna toss in some bay leaves, a little bit of thyme, and some fresh ground black pepper. Okay, so we're gonna give this a stir to make sure those spices incorporate through the broth. And arrange it so the potatoes are mostly covered in the liquid. And we're gonna go ahead and cover it with the lid. And we're gonna let this simmer for about 45 minutes until the potatoes are tender and actually even kind of falling apart. We want them to be really nice and soft so that they puree into the soup nicely. So we'll be back in 45 minutes and I'll show you how to finish this soup off. Okay, so as you can see, our potatoes are nice and soft now. I can break them up with a spoon. We're gonna go ahead and remove our 2 bay leaves from the soup. Set those to the side. So we're gonna go ahead and start blending this soup. The ideal way to do this would be with an immersion blender. If you have an immersion blender at home, just stick it in, blend everything until it's smooth. In my case, I actually don't have an immersion blender. I just have a little magic bullet. So I'm gonna be doing batch blending a little bit in the blender at a time. If you're gonna use a standard blender, make sure you remove the little knob in the middle of the lid to vent steam, and then cover that hole with like a 3 times folded over towel and hold the lid down. And make sure you're only filling your blending containers about halfway. Because this is hot, the steam is gonna build up pressure, and if you fill it too high, when you open it, that steam and that pressure is gonna cause things to explode, and then you're gonna end up with hot soup in your face, which is not a good idea. So again, halfway only, and if you're using a standard blender, remove the top part so that the steam can vent, and just cover it with a towel. So we're gonna go ahead and blend this up. So we're gonna get a scoop of the potatoes and the leeks and very carefully pop that in there, get a little bit of liquid, and we're gonna go ahead and blend this up. Okay, we're gonna pop it here on our blender. Not enough liquid. Little more liquid into this. And then because this base of this soup is made with potatoes, we don't want to over blend it. We just want to blend it till it's smooth. Otherwise it can get kind of a strange texture if it's over blended. So you can see it's nice and smooth, and I'm gonna go ahead and finish up this whole batch. I'll touch base with you once it's done. We've pureed it. It's a little thicker than it's gonna be when we finish, but we are going to be adjusting that thickness a bit. So first things first, we're going to be adding a bit of the heavy cream in to finish the soup. This you could skip, I suppose, if you were really trying to lower the fat content in this, but this is really what makes the soup nice and creamy. So you want to add a generous amount in there and stir it in. Just gonna stir in the cream. Think about like mashed potatoes, they're just not quite as good without the cream in them, and kind of think of this soup as the same way. Like, it can be done, but why? As long as you're not eating tons of heavy cream every single night, a little bit here and there is not going to hurt you. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more. I'm going to stir that all in. And this is still a little thicker than I would like it to be, so I'm gonna add just a little bit more chicken stock into this. Got about another cup or so. And that should bring this to that texture that we want. I'm just gonna keep stirring this in until it's all incorporated. Don't mind my dog over there if you hear him in the background. He's trying to paw at a treat that he knocked underneath my wine rack. There we go. That's more soup texture. I think I'm even gonna add just a little bit more liquid, a little bit of water. And I forgot to mention at the beginning of this video, but if you did want to make this completely vegetarian, you could get rid of the chicken stock and substitute in vegetable stock instead. That'll still make a really nice flavorful soup. It's not the end of the world to change the chicken stock for vegetable stock. Okay, our soup is right about at the texture that we want. So now we're just going to check for the seasoning. Okay, get a little bit of this. Now we haven't added any salt at this point, so we're gonna need to season this pretty heavily. So I did about maybe 1.5 tablespoons of salt there to start. I think we're gonna add another splash of cream as well. Just stir that in. I like my soup really creamy. I don't know about you, but I kind of just eyeball it. I'll put, you know, more of a set quantity to begin with in the actual recipe in the description of this video, but kind of get used to like eyeballing your stuff. You know, taste it, get familiar with it. Do you think it needs more cream, or do you like the texture that it's at? Okay. So stirred in a little bit of salt. I'm gonna check our seasoning again. That's nice. So we're gonna give this a minute or two to come back up to temperature, because after adding all this liquid, it's cooled off quite significantly. And then once it's come back to temperature, we're gonna go ahead and garnish it with some Gruyere cheese and some tarragon, and then I'm gonna have some dinner because I am hungry. Okay, so our soup is now nice and hot and ready to go. So we're gonna ladle some into the bowl and see a little bit of steam coming off of it. This is a good soup for the fall season. You know, now that it's getting a little bit cooler, might have some rain. This is nice and hearty. So we've got our soup, and we're just gonna take a little bit of fresh Gruyere and grate it right over the top of the soup. If you don't have a microplane, you can use like a regular box grater. It's just gonna give you a little bit of a thicker texture from the cheese. Okay. And then we'll set that to the side. We're gonna take just a little bit of fresh tarragon, a couple leaves here. Get rid of the stems. And we're just gonna break it up and throw it over the top of the soup like so. And that is our Coraline inspired soup. So I don't know how Coraline's dad was as a cook, but I think this soup would change anyone's mind in regards to a leek and potato soup. Let's give it a try just to be sure. Oh yeah, that's a bowl of comfort right there. This is perfect for a cold fall day. I could just imagine like the rain outside on the windows and the wind whipping and like a cozy fireplace and a nice bowl of this. This is definitely classic fall food. I want to go ahead and close this video out so that I can eat my dinner while it's still hot. I'm just gonna say that if you enjoyed this recipe, please consider giving me a like. I really appreciate that feedback. Let me know in the comments below if you're going to be trying this recipe out at home, and if you have any questions or anything was unclear, please hit me up in the comments as well. I'll be checking those and answering anything that comes up. If you like book related recipes, please consider giving me a subscribe and hitting the notification bell so that way you never miss any of my videos. On Tuesdays every week, I'll be posting a new book-related recipe. It's always going to be based off of a book. And then on Thursdays, I post a specifically book-related topic, like, you know, the books I'm reading, book reviews, festive book celebration kind of things. So twice a week, I'm putting up new videos, and I would love for you to come join me. If you enjoyed this, perhaps I'll see you next week for the next recipe. Thank you. Again, I'm Bandy, and this is Bandy's Books.